Oh, and my camera decides to screw up on me. Let me fix that. Good evening, everyone. Can't have a show without a little bit of mess up, right? Here we go. Now I'm on the screen. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope you're doing well. This is Late Night. I'm Bill, and this is Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures. And I'm going to try to be a little more upbeat than I was last night. I got called out on it by one of my favorite people. I will talk to you later about it, Mike. Yeah, I'm having little issues in my life, and it's kind of bleeding over, and I'm going to try not to let that happen tonight. Jonezer's got issues as well that he's got to deal with tomorrow. We won't get into that, but we've got a lot on our minds, and we're trying to do our show to entertain you. So we're going to try to do that to the best of our abilities, and hopefully everyone will be happy, and we can get this done. So let's go ahead and get Jonezer in here, and let's get started. And I'll just shout the chat out with him here with me.
What's up, everybody? It's Jonezer, your favorite comic book guy. So let's do this.
All right. Yeah, I've got to take that setting off down there that deactivates my camera when I'm using it. Yeah, there's the Joker, man. Hey.
Yeah, so who do you trust? Ho, ho, ho. Money, money, money. Who do you trust? Me? I'm giving away free money. Now where is the Batman? He's at home washing his tights.
There you go, man. Let's shout the chat out real quick here, Jonezer. Sean coming in. He says he had to dip out. He might come back in later. Good to see you, Sean. Glad you came in for a minute anyway. Johnny Sorensen says, don't trust Musk. He's a replicant. He also, we were talking about that, he believes that we're living in a simulation. What do you say? There's probably a 1 in 1 billion chance that we're not living in a simulation or some crap.
Yeah. That is Musk and Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan reminds me of Art Bell. You don't know what he's thinking, but he entertains the fact that these other people are saying what they're saying, and he doesn't say anything against them. He just lets them talk.
Well, I've seen him get people. There's a few people he's got when he's had them on, you know. So he will get people.
Oh, he got that
But he
Dr.
also,
Sanjay, whatever his name was. He got his ass
yeah,
good on there one time.
yeah. Well, he got Candace Michelle too. Like he's gotten some people, or Candace Owens, or whichever one that is.
Candace Owens, that's the one that she's
There
having
you
some
go.
kind of spit spat with what's his name over there at the Daily Wire.
Yeah, he got her pretty good too. But the thing is, he will respect your opinion and he will have some decorum or what have you when they discuss, but he's gonna call you on your BS if you're trying to feed him any.
Let's get on down the list here and say hello to everybody. Mike Fee is here. I don't know how long he'll be here. He usually goes to bed early because he gets really, really worn out, tired with this new treatment that he's taking. Rickster's here. I'm alive. Goodbye and kiss my ass. Very good, Rickster. Moving on down. Sue Studios here. Hello, Bill and Jonezer. Hello, Sue Studio. Good to see you. And did you ever dance with the devil by the pale moonlight? We just got $2 super chat from Nightwing. Thank you, sir. Nightwing, hey Bill and Joneser, let's do this. And Gojatron, my balloons. He stole my balloons. Yeah, I think we got everybody now. And George Valentine here. Have a good evening, sirs, in chat. Thank you for being here, George. And thank you for that super chat, Nightwing. Bill and Joneser, a fantastic adventure. Yes, sir, indeed. All right, there we go. Got that liked and loved. And so, what are we doing this week? Well, tonight anyway. Well, I've got a nice little video called about Am I Trustworthy is the name of the video. And we're going to watch that and we're going to see how we become a trustworthy person and the signs that someone is not a trustworthy person. And this is what I call serendipity, because that's kind of what you're facing right now without going into any detail.
Right. Absolutely. Who do you trust? Hubba, 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 money, money, money. Who do you trust?
Kind of hard these days to figure that one out. It is.
I like Stone Cold Steve Austin's style of that. DTA. Don't trust anybody.
It's kind of the way it gets sometimes, and it's sad that you have to be that way. But you can't. What I liked Ronald Reagan, what he had to say when he was dealing with Mikhail Gorbachev. Don't you trust him, President? Trust but verify. Trust but verify.
Go.
And Rickster says he don't even trust himself. Okay. Some parents are
That's
trustworthy.
fair.
Mine were fairly trustworthy, but I've known some people who had untrustworthy.
Absolutely. I had friends that had parents that shouldn't have been allowed to have their own kids. They're untrustworthy people and they shouldn't be parents at all.
It happens. Well, in light of what's going on with you having to get up very, very early in the morning and this being a late show, let's get on into the memes of the week and get that started. Yeah, some coffee there, Nightwing, num num. And let's go memes of the weeks.
Memes of the week. Memes of the week.
All right, here we are. And I am going to have to fix that camera so it quits doing that. It's going to drive me nuts. Hang on just a second there, Joneser, as we get into this. As you can see there, looks like Robert's been to the gym for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'd say.
All right, that should take care of that issue. All right, so let's go to the next meme here. It says, before and after, in only 2 weeks, Robert lost 2 weeks of his life because it doesn't look like the gym did him a damn bit of good.
No, just like anything, you get out of it what you put into it. So it looks like Robert maybe didn't work as hard as he could have, but in 2 weeks it's still early. You're probably not going to see too visible a result.
Well, Charles Atlas, of course, said that in 7 days you'll feel a difference, but it didn't say you become Charles Atlas in 7 days.
Right.
He lost 2 weeks of his life, better than nothing, said the Rickster. All right. Rickster doesn't have a whole lot of sympathy for none of these people in these memes, I don't think.
I think Rickster has sympathy, period.
Where they say sympathy lies, right? Have you heard that one before?
Sympathy lies with the devil.
Sympathy lies in the dictionary between shit and syphilis.
There you go. Two things nobody wants.
I work out. Nothing is impossible in 2 weeks. You need more than that. Nothing is possible in 2 weeks. You need more than that. That's true.
It's true. Like I said, get out of it what you put into it. I mean, if you're still going to eat 6 double cheeseburgers and work out for 20 minutes, you're not going to do as well as if you'd work out for an hour and eat 2 double cheeseburgers.
No, that's like the person going to McDonald's and buying a double cheeseburger, a double sized fries, and a Diet Coke.
I saw that every day I worked fast food every day.
All right, I've heard this one before, and I think you've done this before, Jones. Or my coworker said he doesn't ask his girlfriend where she wants to eat. He just says, "Guess where we're going to eat?" And the first thing she guesses is where they go. Smart man.
Yep, I have used this, and it does work. That is what you do. I would say you have to gauge interest in voice. So if you say, "Guess where we're going to eat," and she goes, "Burger King," nope, not there. Arby's, nope. Olive Garden, how'd you know?
That's it. Richter says he does have sympathy for the poor people and those who can't catch a break in life, and he does understand those folks.
Oh, there you go. I was just being cheeky when I said that, not
of course,
literal.
We're just picking at you, Rick. And yes, Nightwing does work out about 3 hours and two burgers and a salad. Okay.
There you go.
The way you work out, you deserve to get you a little protein. A hamburger ain't gonna hurt you none, Nightwing.
Well, and here's the thing: like, look at the Dwayne the Rock Johnson's breakfast. I think that guy has like a 3-egg omelet, pancakes, toast, bacon, egg, sausage, the whole works. But
when you're working out the way Rock works out, and you're working out the way
then you're gonna go run for 3 hours. You need that energy.
You gotta have that protein, man. You gotta have it. Rick always picks on us, and that's how you know he likes us. That's correct, Mike Fee. Now, can you smell a picture? I certainly can.
Yeah, it all smells like pee.
every one of these smells like piss.
That's funny.
I have to admit, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a trigger warning now. We didn't get as many memes this week as we've had before because I caught up on all the memes on the last few shows. So I had to go to the bad place and get some memes. So some of these are kind of edgy. So just beware. Now, of course, these potatoes are from Canada and not from Idaho. Can you tell there, Joneser?
Hey there, buddy. Yeah. Hey, would you like some craft dinner?
I missed one payment. Just one.
Right. Gone. Take your little big wheels and get out of here.
And of course, some of these are last minute memes. So thank you, Mike. I believe you posted this one, sir.
I've got a pile of them I meant to send you, so I guess next week.
Well, just hang on to them, man, because I'm going to need them next week. Trump versus Bullet, Biden versus Stare.
Oh, shots fired. Literally.
Dude, I was over at the Bad Place looking at the memes, and there's a lot of stuff on there that I can't put on YouTube at all.
Where is the bad place?
We'll talk later. I don't want to even mention it over here.
Huh.
It's the place where memes originate. It's the place that I don't have any business going. It's a place that I've told you guys that if you are going to go there, you need to have a VPN, have it operational as you peruse through there, and do not post ever. Just lurk. Don't be embarrassed, Mark. A lot of guys yell harder daddy during the rectal exam.
Oh boy. Terrible. You ever have a rectal exam, Bill?
I had
No,
a
I
prostate
got
exam. I had a prostate exam during the physical that I had to go into the Army.
I got there, man. He said, okay, drop your drawers. All right. So I put my hands on the table there. And the next thing I know, he's got the thing up the wazoo. I'll tell you, that was the worst dentist I ever saw. I don't know what that had to do with my teeth,
I think you got, my friend. I will tell you this. When I was in the Army, there was a guy who was a medic, and he used to tell me some of the shit they used to pull. Doing a prostate exam on a guy, and you take this hand and you put it on his shoulder. You take this greased up finger right here with a glove on it and you put it in, and then his buddy sneaks out from behind a curtain and puts this hand on his other shoulder.
Oh. I'm just, I put my hands on the table, drop my pants. I just hope I don't hear his pants drop too. That's all
Ooh,
I'm saying.
yeah, that it can be pretty rough. Yeah. This is Dr. Howie Feltersnatch, MD, gynecologist, OBGYN, born to be a
Nice.
gynecologist. And Rick got some advice there. Always ask for the prettiest with the smallest finger. It helps.
That is sound advice.
All right, here we go. This is the one that I wanted to bring out last night. Being sucked inside the Jumanji game for 30 years is starting to sound pretty good at this point.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. Tigers and lions and bears. Oh my.
At least you know where you stand with those creatures.
Right.
Now, I know that this is kind of small for you, Joneser, but you might be able to read that. Meanwhile, at Castle Grayskull, He-Man says, "Sorceress, I need your wisdom." "What is it, He-Man?" "Hela and I had an argument." "And you wish to know how to win this argument?" "Yes." "Here is a list. This is the best that I can do, He-Man." "There's nothing on the list." "Exactly."
Yeah, I've been reading the Humanity for many years now. That's a good group where they do those
I may have to
memes.
go over there and do some research for future videos.
Yeah, they got a lot of good ones on that. That's been going for years.
You ever have trouble sleeping at night because your brain won't go to sleep?
Yeah. You just sit there and be like, huh, I wonder how dragons blow out their birthday candles.
Yeah. Or how would you do CPR on a giraffe? All that kind of crap. It just, boom, your brain just won't stop, and you gotta. Ugh. When does the sorceress do her shopping? I don't know, Rick. Tell us. So you're telling me wrestling is fake? I have only one thing to say. Go F yourself.
Right. What's fake and we like it that way.
So is the Starship Interpoop flying through space and circling Uranus and wiping out Klingons, but I don't seem to be bitching about that.
And we like that fake too.
This poor guy, I kind of feel sorry for him. He robbed the bank so that he could go to prison and escape from his wife, but instead he's sentenced to house arrest.
Oh,
Snap.
terrible.
Oh, I like this one here. I call my coochie the lotto because you're lucky if you can hit it. I thought it was because you kept scratching it, you walking crab trap. Skeletor and Evil Lynn memes. I used to try to get at least one of those in a week. They're pretty good to go back to.
Yeah, classics. Oh,
Hey,
that's a
where'd you
classic.
learn how to undo a bra like that? See?
All
How
right.
I learned.
One finger.
I'll never talk to you again. A blessing from the Lord. I tried memeing less, but it made my days meaningless.
Right. Nice. Little play
Here's
on
one
words.
just for you. Here's one just for you. You might appreciate this one.
Drummer, no problem. Lose them with our fog machines. Those things suck. Let me tell you. Every time they put one of them on the stage, and it's supposed to just give a little puff, for some little atmosphere. But the dingbat running the thing never knows what he's doing, and the whole place is fogged up.
This is me right here. I want to be mad rich, but I'm only mad. So I'm halfway there. Progress.
Nice.
I'm getting free figures and you're not.
Yeah. I know, right? He's getting something all right.
Me watching drug dealers and the OF girls buy their fifth house whilst I work 9 to 5 and can barely afford milk.
Right. Yeah, they'll just sit there and show off their butthole or whatever, and they can pay their rent, and you got to go to work.
Even if I did show my butthole on the OF, I probably wouldn't get anybody to watch. Would you watch my butthole on OF?
You couldn't afford to get me to watch that. No, you'd have to pay me to see it.
Oh, sorry for the unsolicited deck pic. That was for someone else. That's a very sexy deck. 10 out of 10. I would sit on it. Trim the bushes so it looks a little bigger.
I see what they're doing here. It's a little word play on something here. They're not talking about decks.
Yeah, but
I
that
get
was
it.
too, Rickster.
I get it.
Actor Benedict Cumberbatch has revealed that as a child he suffered from crippling constipation. The answer to that is no shit, Sherlock.
Nice. Very well played. The internet wins again.
Mike Fee says that's a big dick.
Yep.
Do you remember the
I've seen
Walmart
big
commercials that they did a few years ago? Oh, look at that big gas man. Oh man, it's the big gas man over there putting gas in the gas tanks. Or I shipped my bed. I shipped my pants. If you want PETA to block you, this is how you do it. PETA says a fish's life is just as valuable to them as yours is to you. And then Greg says, how come fish can eat other fish, but we can't eat fish? Blocked.
All right.
I don't get the photo. He played Sherlock Holmes, Mike Fee, and he can't crap, Rick. The deck pick I meant. Oh, okay, Rick. Well, that's one of those, if you know, you know. If I have to explain, you wouldn't understand. Time for the obligatory cat meme of the week here. When people ask me what's more important, food or love, I don't answer because I'm eating.
Fair
Here's a comic book meme just for you. Riddler and his goons here, and Batman says, the numbers 14 and 3, the musical notes of Beethoven's Fifth, the capital of Bulgaria. The answer was obvious, Riddler, too obvious. Because I looked it up on the internet, but he doesn't need to know that.
Nice.
I'm looking at the chat over there. Wow, walked into that one. Dun, 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 dun. Here we go. When you're so bad at catching Smurfs, you're forced to find a new job.
Oh, poor Gargamel. I can see that Azrael's just gone. He probably just got out and get rid of her.
Can't afford cat food.
I suppose not.
Oh, those dastardly Smurfs and their happiness.
You know that was Skeletor doing that voice too.
Was that Alan Oppenheimer? Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. And he wanted to eat the Smurfs. He wanted to have Smurfs for lunch and dinner and supper and all that, right? Is that what it was?
Where they make the magic potions or whatever with their, I don't remember. But I just remember his laugh was basically Skeletor's laugh. Well, Skeletor's was like, where his was more, like it was basically the same laugh, just a different tone.
And here we have our military meme of the week. If you weren't in the Army and you didn't eat MREs, you may not understand this. I'm nasty. How nasty? MRE, omelet, nasty. Ooh, that's nice.
Nice. Good old Cleveland. Ooh, that's nasty.
Mom is a grandma. That looks dangerous, Mom, in 1989.
Right. I remember doing that.
You haven't rode until you rode in the back of a station wagon with no seat belt. It was like we used to wrestle back there while she was driving down the street.
I can top it. I used to ride in the back of the pickup truck going down the highway in San Diego, California.
We used to do that.
No topper, nothing. Just ride in the back of the pickup truck, just sitting on the bed.
Yeah, I remember them days.
I would never
too.
let my kids do that now.
Yeah, we did that.
I mean, somebody hits that car, whoever's in the back of that's dead.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's it. They're just dead. That's it.
It was a different time. It was a different time, Jones. We knew it. Nobody cared. The best station wagon is the Griswold one. Yes, Jeff, I agree. I haven't seen this personally, but when I saw this, I thought it might need to be put on the interwebs here for us to all
I've
see.
seen this. That was unfortunate.
Do you believe in coincidence there, Joneser?
Oh, I believe somebody in the AI factory is having a good giggle right now.
And we're at the end of our memes of the week. I hope you guys enjoyed that one as much as we did presenting it to you tonight. What'd you think?
Not too shabby. You know, I think we've had better ones, if I'm being honest, but not too shabby.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some, and some are just about normal. It wasn't the worst.
No, no.
Ready for some comics?
Joneser's Comic Corner. It's Joneser's Comic Corner. It's Joneser's Comic Corner. It's Joneser's Comic Corner.
So let's do this.
And I hope you enjoy your new digs here in your little comic shop that you can work here with us, from. I hope you guys like Jonezer's new comic corner here. I mean, what you think in the comments below after this is over with.
You know, if I ever do get my own brick and mortar store, I want it to look just like this. This would be cool. Well, today I got just a couple books to show. We're gonna spitball into them, so this is gonna be a little bit more condensed. Last time I looked at the comic corner, and we just had way too many books because I just wanted to show way too many Hulk books. So this time we're got a couple X-Men books and a surprise at the end. So I want to start off with one. I'm proud to have it. Love the book. Somewhere in the late 80s, Marvel started reprinting some of the classic X-Men stories, and they did it under the guise of Classic X-Men. And here we have one of my favorite X-Men stories. It's a very early one with the newer X-Men team and Magneto. And the issue was really cool. It was a really good story. You had a big X-Men team, and Magneto takes them on, and he defeats them, all of them, easily, without much fanfare. I mean, obviously, folks like Wolverine and Colossus being made of metal go down almost without a fight. Nightcrawler never stood a chance. Beast pretty much taken out. It come down to basically Cyclops, Storm, and Phoenix. And this is when she had the powers of the Phoenix, but she still gets overwhelmed by Magneto. And he ends up defeating them all, and they all end up hooked up to machines and under his power. And that's the end. And I remember reading that as a kid and just being like, wow, I think the heroes are only as good as their villain. And when you get a villain like Magneto, who could just walk in and just wipe out, and not just the superhero, an entire team of superheroes, and just make it look easy. It was just very cool, and it was very good artwork. It was back in the time where Wolverine was a little more savage and a little more known to kind of go berserk and take some swipes. There's a great monologue where he takes some swipes at Magneto before Magneto kind of starts paying attention to him, and Cyclops even kind of recognizes like, "Ooh," and he kind of knocks Magneto, almost saves Magneto in a way, because he realizes, "Oh, Wolverine's not holding back; he's going to take him out." I've seen the signs before, and it's kind of neat. And we have the follow up, where of course the villain won, but he doesn't stay one. Of course, the heroes overcome and eventually take the villain out. But we were talking about change and how the stories have to progress and the characters have to progress. And Bill and I were talking about characters being evergreen, where if the bat signal lights in the sky, Two-Face is robbing the bank, Batman takes in Two-Face, game over. Next issue, bat signal in the sky, the Riddler's at it again. You know what I mean? It's got to stay that way. Well, with Magneto, it didn't stay that way. Eventually, he became looked at as more of a sympathetic character and made into more of a hero, and Magneto evolved and changed. And I do think that is an example of character growth done right, to the point where it was hard to put him back, because in the 90s, when they had that successful X-Men cartoon, we wanted to put Magneto back into being more of a bad guy, and it was kind of difficult to do that. And in fact, Chris Claremont was basically asked to leave Marvel because of his refusal to really work. And it's just kind of hard. So what do you think of Magneto, Bill, as far as his character arc, starting as a villain and being to where at one point he even joined the X-Men, and to being almost looked at as a hero, and then now I think he's more portrayed as a gray area character, maybe an anti-hero.
I think that's a very interesting thing, because Magneto is another one of those villains. Like, we've discussed this in the past, the best villains are the ones who think they're the hero and that the heroes are not.
Right.
And what was Magneto fighting for? Well, we found out that he was actually fighting for mutant rights, because that was what the big deal was with the mutant comics, X-Men, was to try to do that story, because it was a parallel to something else that was happening at the time, right?
Right, and they were trying to do the civil rights movement or human rights movement, and through the comic books, and it was neat to see. The X-Men have always kind of sung this song of unity, and even when you go to the reboot of the team, where you have the giant size X-Men #1, and you have Colossus and Nightcrawler and Storm and Wolverine, and they wanted an international Avengers, which was the idea. So you had Colossus from Russia, Nightcrawler from Germany, Storm from Africa. I think there was Sunfire from Japan, Wolverine from Canada, and then Warpath from America. And then, of course, you had some of the original X-Men, Cyclops and Jean and the Professor remained behind. Whereas I think at the time Beast had moved on and joined the Avengers or the Defenders, and same had Angel and Iceman had moved on. And so you have this new team of X-Men that was almost trying to have this unity, like, yeah, we are all from different countries, but we're all one, fighting for one ideal and one purpose. And if these guys can all get along, then why can't the world, right?
Correct. And Blue Sasquatch has joined us tonight. Good to see you, sir. I'm glad you're here. He says hello to me and you. And our Magneto is best in a gray area, says Mike Fee. He likes him in that gray area where he's not necessarily a good guy or a bad guy, but he's kind of working in the middle. Let's talk more about that. Go ahead.
I kind of like that. I like that too. I like Magneto as he can be opposed to the X-Men, he can be the villain, but I also think Magneto fighting for his own ideal or his own purpose. But he's also, you have to understand where, not getting too gory into the details, but Magneto comes from a very rough childhood, and and he is not gonna take it anymore, and so he sees this as a history repeating itself, and he's going to lash out and fight back. He's not going to stand by idly and watch it happen. And so it's a neat take on the character. I think it is fun to him to be the aggressor and the X-Men to try to be the peacekeepers, and it ends in a glorious battle of because of the battle's really ideals. It's not necessarily magnetic waves, laser blasts, and claws. It's about what's right and what's wrong. And I think those are the best stories. And that was one of my favorite X-Men fights with Magneto, was in those. And there were in original issues that I don't have, but I was happy to have those classic X-Men to retell it. And you get those a lot cheaper. It's the same artwork. But here's another cover. It's an X-Men book. This is an actual original. And I'm sure some of you guys have seen this cover. It is from 1986, and this is Uncanny X-Men 207. I very much love that cover. of Wolverine slashing through the comic book page at you. Very, very cool. Wolverine is another character, I think much like Magneto, where we've had some change. He started off as a Hulk villain, and he was set off by the Canadian government to take out the Hulk. Then we have him join the X-Men, and he starts off as kind of the savage, kind of killer, mean guy. And in fact, I know Angel and Iceman had tremendous problem with Wolverine being allowed to join the team. They thought, oh, is this what we've come down? Now we're a bunch of killers. We're not heroes anymore. And it kind of poses the question, because when Wolverine comes about in the 70s, we had a push for characters like Ghost Rider and Punisher and heroes who will cross that line and will take a life. It was different, I mean, it was very much against like someone like Cyclops, who had the power to obliterate anybody without even meaning to, and he's constantly trying to control it and not do that. And here's this other guy who's like, oh no, I'm gonna go right at it and right for it. And they both believe they're right.
And that's an interesting thing when the hero thinks he's right and the other guy or the opposer thinks that they're correct. And you have to look at it from both points of view, because maybe they both have points.
Wolverine definitely got 6 points pointed right at you. And what I liked about Wolverine was somebody wrote it later, because Wolverine was definitely like a work in progress. He started off hyper aggressive to the point where he'd go berserk and he'd have that animal rage, and he'd even start swiping at his own teammates in battle, not knowing friend from foe. And sometimes he'd have to be kind of taken out by his own teammates because he was a danger to himself and everyone around him, to eventually they started working him into more of the character that we all know and love now, where they kind of played him. Frank Miller did that wonderful 4-part series where they kind of fleshed out his origin a little bit and made him kind of like a failed samurai, and kind of like he was real big. Frank Miller was big on that Ronin thing at the time. And so that he kind of applied it to Wolverine. He also took that Wolverine's hair should look like his mask, even when his mask isn't on, which is iconic. We all know that, love that. But I liked, there was a quote where they did, I don't know if it was in that book, but later, where Wolverine basically says, you meet me with fists, I'll meet you with fists. You want to see some compassion from me? First, show some. And if you want to go blade to blade, I'll meet you there too. And I kind of liked that, because they kind of backed him off from that savage killer to where he was more honorable, and it wasn't he wasn't going to be the first to go at you like that, but he was definitely going to answer you that way if you came at him that way.
The X-Men arcade game, I believe he's talking about. You have the option to have Wolverine go berserk in that one.
There was a Nintendo game where if his berserk got too high, he would just start swinging crazy, and you couldn't control him anymore, and he would just go where he just did what he did, which I guess was a great callback to the comic. But to me, in that Nintendo game, that was always irritating, because then you couldn't jump properly and you just fall off the platform and die. So it was terrible when it happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
I do not remember what arcade game Nightwing's talking about. There was one that was based off of an ill-fated Pride of the X-Men cartoon. I think it had one pilot episode and it didn't get through, and then it never came to be. And then not too long later, we got the X-Men cartoon we're all familiar with.
Right. That's the
there
one
was
that they extended on Disney Plus here recently, right?
There was a cabinet arcade, stand-up arcade game based off that failed one. that they had ready to go, so they just put it out there, even though it didn't match the cartoon that they had the hit with. So kind of funny. But getting off the X-Men rant and just to have the final comic here that I always like to show off one that kind of a wow book. And this one's definitely not a wow book like it's super valuable. It's just a wow book like one that is really special to me or one I enjoyed as a kid. And it kind of goes along with the subject of change and character growth and should we, shouldn't we, with characters like this. And this is the Ghost Rider #1. This is the Dan Ketch Ghost Rider from the 90s that I remember as a kid. And you notice that's not a Harley Davidson bike, that's looks more like a
Crotch rocket.
Correct, which was popular at the time in the early 90s. And so it was a different take on Ghost Rider. He was a different character. And I jumped on this one from the beginning, and I was a huge fan of it. And it wasn't until I met some older cats who were like, that's not Ghost Rider. You gotta check this out. And then they kind of smartened me up and showed me the old Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider stuff, which of course I like better. But at the time, that was Ghost Rider to me. And a lot of the tropes that were created in this comic ended up getting put into the current versions of the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, much like the penance stare. That started with Dan Ketch Ghost Rider. Johnny Blaze didn't have that ability or that power. And I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, in the presence of evil, he would transform kind of against his will. Whereas this Ghost Rider, I think it was more with the bike. He came and he touched the bike and he could control when he transformed. But of course, once he did transform, the power of the Ghost Rider, the presence or spirit of the Ghost Rider took over, and he is no longer making the decisions anymore.
Right.
But yeah, they changed the story. They moved it along, which again, this was kind of what we were talking about earlier. At what point does a story become stale and you have to shake it up and do something different? And if you do that, can you be a good custodian and take care of this character enough to where after you've left your mark on it, he's not ruined for the next person to pick him up and move with him? And I do think we have a lot of that we're looking at right now, like what they've done to I'm sorry to get on a soapbox here. The Star Wars IP is just atrocious. And I think it's going to be very difficult for somebody new to come in, pick up Star Wars, dust it off, put a Band-Aid on it, and move it on. I think there's a few characters that have not had good caretakers, who have not taken good care of them, and they have left them in worse shape than they were when they were found.
Valentine says there's an issue of X-Men that I had years ago and lost in a move, and was wondering if you might have seen it. It was an issue where X-Men fought Dracula.
Yes, and it's from that same era, that 70s era or early 80s era. I do believe even Dracula bites Storm, and she actually has fangs for a little while and is with Dracula, and they're trying to get her back. Yes, very cool issue.
And Mike Fee says Star Wars is injured. I think Star Wars is way far gone beyond injured. I think Star Wars is almost dead. The thing I think they should do, I think they should rest that for about a decade. May be able to save it if they do that. But if they continue along the path they're on now, they're going to kill it.
Oh, but once you travel down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will. And here that's consumed with greed and money chasing, and each new Star Wars makes less money and is less favorable than the one before it, until eventually it will be worthless.
Johnny Sorensen in the house says Dan and Johnny did some good team-up stories, and Blaze became Ghost Rider again.
Did. In fact, quite honestly, when Johnny Blaze first reappears in this Ghost Rider story, it was not to team up with the current Ghost Rider, it was to take him out. And he had a Hellfire shotgun and he's blasting my hero. And I'm watching ribs splinter out of him, and he's on the ground, and it blam, blam, and Johnny Blaze is going to take him out. And I remember being horrified in this comic book, turning the pages, no, as my hero is being decimated by the original hero. And yeah, they eventually do, like all good hero versus hero stories, they eventually come to terms and team up and go after worse people. I believe they did the Midnight Suns. So they'd have Johnny Blaze and Ghost Rider, and I think Blade and Morbius and a lot of the spooky Marvel characters, much like the Justice League Dark that DC did.
Well, explain to me something, because I'm not up on this stuff like I ought to be. So I was watching the television show that was on ABC that was the what was it called? It was the guy with the secret agency that Nick Fury was in charge of, and
Oh, Shield. Agents of Shield.
yeah, Agents of Shield, and they had a Ghost Rider on there that was driving a freaking car. For God's sake, what the hell is up with that? I was confused.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I'd heard it was actually kind of cool. Um, I'm not sure if that was the Dan Ketch version of Ghost Rider, and
I
they were
don't
putting
think
him in a
so. I think
car
he's
instead of a
a whole
tanker.
different character altogether, but he's a Ghost Rider that drives a car.
Right. And I liked the movie. They had Sam Elliott and they had the cowboy Ghost Rider on the flaming horse. And so I like the idea of the Ghost Rider having different vehicles, you know. I think they did Cosmic Ghost Rider and it was Punisher, and he was riding around on a rocket in outer space, taking out galactic villains as the Galactic Ghost Rider.
No, that sounds interesting, sort of.
It was something else they did with Punisher that wasn't Punisher and it wasn't Ghost Rider. So you managed to disappoint two fan bases in one book. Pretty incredible.
Well, a lot of that kind of discussion I kind of want to save tomorrow with Gojitron, but I mean we can get into it a little bit. So, how far do you go before you have to hit the reset button, or you'll lose your whole audience?
I don't know. I think most people go too far. And here's the problem with this kind of thing, because now everybody's all up on this multiverse, and there's like Earth A and well, Earth B or whatever it is, and I think they've even gone too far with that. So now you're fixing the fix with the fix that everybody's sick of the fix. It's like I've seen a meme not too long ago that showed that scene from The Watchmen where he's on the Mars and he's looking and he's like, right now I'm reading the worst Spider-Man comic I've ever read. It's 1997 and I'm reading the worst Spider-Man comic I've ever read. It's 2003 and I'm reading the worst Spider-Man comic I've ever read. and it just keeps going. It's 2022 and I'm reading the worst Spider-Man comic I've ever read. And unfortunately, that's just they go a step too far, and I do think that you do eventually have to get to the bat signal in the sky and Commissioner Gordon on the roof and the Two Faces robbing the Second National Bank of all its $2 bills. It's a two-part plan that he's planning to hit at 2 p.m. Like you just have to go to these tropes, and because that's what the audience wants.
Well,
We want to see it.
well, you're barking up my tree right now, because I remember a time in the Silver Age where that's what Batman was fighting. He was fighting Joker and Penguin and Riddler and all those guys, and then they stopped with that and they went kind of off the rails with it, and then the Batman television show came out. And then we transitioned into the Bronze Age, where Batman was brought back to his roots and began uh, become a more darker character. But right there in the mid part of the 70s, they had Batman go through every one of his rogues gallery once more. starting with the return of the Joker. He escaped from Arkham Asylum and came back. That was a wonderful issue. We had an issue with the Riddler. We had an issue with Two-Face. I mean, it was like every couple of months, Batman was fighting one of the villains that was in the public consciousness that was his villain to fight. Almost like they were trying to have that all happen again for the new readers of the comic.
Right. Well, and here's the problem. Batman's been out since the late 30s, mid 30s, and you've probably told every story under the sun. And you can tell as Batman changes over the years. You look at the car's changed with him, and then the car looks like what we think a cool futuristic car would look like in every one of those years. And yeah, you want these characters to be kind of evergreen and to kind of be in their place, like, I mean, I think Superman works best as reporter Clark Kent at the Daily Planet, and old Lois is, being dangerous as ever, and she's going out into the story, Perry, maybe you better stop her. And then, you know what I mean? And you get the classic Superman come in, save the day, and then rinse, repeat. We have it set up, ready to do it again.
Well, Johnny
But
Swanson
the
brings up
problem
a
is,
good point here. Not to interrupt you, but the
sure.
nice thing about the Ghost Rider is the characters are all still canon. They didn't reboot it every like DC every 5 years as an expanded mythology with a Ghost Rider in ancient times. I think what he's getting on, he may not even get it. I think he does because he's a smart guy. You can change things as long as you don't destroy established canon, for lack of a better
Right.
word. If you
Well,
keep
a lot of what he's
within the area that he's supposed to be in. Now, I've had arguments with people about that before too. Why can't we change canon? Well, what happens when you change canon to the point where it's not the character anymore?
Well, what I think one thing Johnny's touching on here is I'm sure you're familiar with the character, the Phantom. Now, the Phantom exists all through time. So we could have stories of the Phantom back in the pirate golden age, all the way up to the 3050, and there's phantoms. It's an inherited title. It's the same thing kind of with Spawn or the Ghost Rider, is there was always one throughout history. So you could have medieval Ghost Rider, or cowboy Spawn, or you know what I mean? You can continue, and each one of these could have their own little pocket and reality. You have the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider from the 70s, and then you have Dan Ketch Ghost Rider from the 90s. So it's like each one existed in its own space. It wasn't messed with. Whereas unfortunately, I think it's been Bruce Wayne Batman since the 30s, and it's still Bruce Wayne Batman in 2024. And it's like, what's this guy going to be, about 80 some odd, 90 some odd years old? So
Behind him. Well, speaking of Phantom, I think it's the same deal with the Phantom. I mean, we've had the same Phantom here for the last, I don't know, since the 1930s when that comic first came out. And his son has yet to assume the role of the Phantom. It's still our good old boy and his Diana Palmer and all that good stuff. But that story has progressed slowly. But then again, I think one of the things that they used to talk about was the time compression. So it takes 2 or 3 years to tell one story, whereas in the reality of this, or inside the fictional reality of the story itself, that only occurred over a few days.
Right. So 10 years in comics is really only like a year maybe in real life.
Right. But
Or
then
whatever.
you outrun the story that you're reading. So we've left them behind in the past, or do they just keep moving around, moving everything forward? So what was back there?
Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, you're trying to sell the comic books to the modern audience.
Correct.
Right. So you make the new comic for the new audience. The old comics were for the old audience. So you got to shake these characters up, update them. Like I think when they redid Spider-Man and Ultimate Spider-Man in the 60s, Uncle Ben and Aunt May gave Parker a microscope, because that was the cool thing for a science kid to get in the 60s. He got his own microscope. Wow. Well, and I think when they did it again in the 2000s or late 90s, he got a laptop.
Makes
You know
more
what I mean?
sense.
So they updated it.
Hey, No Way Farms coming in to say hello. Hey, man, I haven't seen you in a while. How's the little guy doing? And how's the little piggies? Well, I think we're about ready to move on to our next subject here, Joneser. So I'm going to get us off of this scene here. I hope you enjoy your new digs there in your comment corner there.
I could get used to this. This is cool.
I'll busy little beaver today. Little man is good, very good, very good. Good to hear. No Way, and he must be growing like a weed because he's been around for a couple of years now, so he's got to be getting on up there. We enjoyed the trip down the X-Men and Ghost Rider. Today's kids use their iPhone as a microscope. I use my iPhone for a magnifying glass. You know you're old when you take a picture of something so you can blow it up on your phone and look at it. Jamie Sanders, hey.
Right.
Good to see you. Now, I'll tell you what, I want to show this. Yesterday, we went and we had a look at Gojitron's collection, and we had a look at Boba Hicks's collection. But we didn't get a chance to look at Big Mike from Manic Plastic Toys collection because he hadn't sent me any pictures yet. Well, he did an image dump on me today over there in the members chat on IG, and I went ahead and made a video for him, and I thought it would be a good idea to show that to everyone today. So let me make sure I got that set up to go here. Yeah, I do. And are you ready to take a little gander at Big Mike from Manic Plastic Toys toy collection?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go, folks.
Big Mike's got a shop for toys. He-Man figures bring him joy. Wrestlers cooking in the rain. Teenage turtles doing their thing. Manic Plastic Toy Shop's cool. Custom displays is how he rules. Heroes lined up side by side. Every toy is source of pride. Big Mike loves his toys. They bring him so much joy. He's a collector too, always something new. Shelves with heroes old and new. Every figure's got a view. From the 80s to today, Manic Plastic leads the way. He-Man, turtles, ninjas all around. Wrestlers slamming to the ground. In the shop, the magic's found. Where childhood dreams abound. Big Mike loves it, toy shop. He-Man, turtles, ninjas all around. Wrestlers slamming to the ground. dreams of calm. Big Mike loves his toys. The thing is so much joy. He's a collector true, always something new.
And we are back. And you saw Alf. Yes.
I saw Alf with his like Hawaiian t-shirt or whatever.
Jeff says he's got
Alf was one of
everything.
those shows. Alf was one of those shows I really liked as a kid, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then I seen it on rerun as an adult, and I watched it back, and I went, "Ew, this is not as cool as I remember it."
You know, I was reading or watching an episode of behind the scenes. The set that they had to work on was a death trap.
Well, yeah, to get that puppet, you had the holes in the floor for the puppeteer to be underneath.
Right. And the guy that played Willie on that, I think he hated every minute that he was on that show.
Well, and that perfect for his character, because his character was to be the grumpy old man on the show, so he probably didn't have a hard time acting. He just channeled how his natural mood was, and there you go.
No Way Farm says Alf didn't age very well.
It didn't. It didn't. It was funny because I loved it as a kid, and I think me and my son Taylor were starting to watch them, and I think we got 2 or 3 episodes in, and my son just looked up at me and he said, "Dad, I don't want to watch Alf anymore. Dad, I don't want to watch Alf ever again."
Alf was another one of those. I ended up with a cartoon show on Saturday morning, as well as the live action show that played on one day a week or whatever. But I remember watching that, but I just don't remember enjoying it like I did some other things in life.
He had his 15 minutes of fame, but I'll tell you what, like me and Lyric watched back the Muppet Show from like 1974, 1975. Those aged great. You know, I mean, you could still watch that. They're still funny.
Yeah, that's kind of timeless there as well. Where is Alf these days? Says Rickster. Didn't they try to do an update or
He's touching on it. They did a movie nobody watched because the final episode of the show ended in a cliffhanger. I remember that as a child. Like he gets surrounded and he's captured by the alien task force, and that's how the show ended. And they were gonna bring it back with a movie, and then they never did. And then apparently they did bring it back with a movie, and like Johnny says, nobody watched it.
Yeah, it's too late.
I heard it was terrible.
I haven't seen it, so I'm going to live in ignorance because that's bliss.
I can't watch the show back, so why would the movie be any better?
Johnny answers Rick. Alpha's in the taxidermy museum for puppets. The last he heard, and he says, "Oh, I saw that TV movie of Alf." And Nightwing says Nightwing and Harley Quinn team up, love interest.
Weird.
I don't think that.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm talking about characters moving on or moving forward. Like, I liked Harley better as Joker's wench. Now that they make her kind of like an anti-hero or a good guy character, and I know a lot of her fans like that. I never liked that. I still don't like that.
No, did you see the Harley Quinn cartoon that they were doing there at one time on the HBO?
Yeah, it has its moments. Yeah, it has its moments. There's some funny episodes of it, and there's some stuff too. What made it work for me? A friend of mine who was a big fan of it. He says if you watch the cartoon and you don't take everything that's happening literally, just take it as this is how Harley sees the universe. It makes much more sense where you get like the Commissioner Gordon with the way too much coffee and the You know, like the
Mm.
that's how she sees him, you know.
And that makes sense, and I can see that. It's kind of like Plastic Man. He sees the world as a cartoon show, and that's why his comic looks so cartoon. Because we're seeing it through his eyes, not necessarily everyone else. And
Yeah,
No
the
Way
show
says
had it.
bad guys or gals should stay bad. That's why we like them, because they're bad guys, bad gals.
Show definitely had its moments. It had some funnier episodes, and it was what it was. It's that the Harley Quinn that I go to if I want to enjoy Harley Quinn content. Not really.
Richter says, what's fun about Saturday morning cartoons is you can create a scenario with your figures the next Saturday. Well, we kind of played that way. I think even your son Lyric has done that before. So the show comes on television, and we bring our toys into the living room, and we play toys of what we're watching on TV while the TV show is going on. Maybe even having the toys do the things that's happening on the screen before us. It's a play pattern, right?
Absolutely. Well, there's something to be said of, like we were saying, keeping the characters in kind of an evergreen place. Okay, most of us are wrestling fans, right? We've all watched a wrestling match. And so there's a point in the wrestling match, and we've all seen it, where one of the combatants is going to have the other combatant in a headlock. And he's got him. And the second time the arm's going to go up. And what the second time it's going to fall. But on that third time, we're going to get and we all know that's coming. And then you're going to get the comeback, and he's going to whip around. We all know this. We knew this the minute we saw the guy in the headlock and he checked the arm. Not only does that have to happen that way, that needs to happen that way. There is something about human nature where we just need to see the replaying of certain rituals. That's why we go to movies that have all the same plots in them, and you know what I mean. Like we all Richard Belzer didn't see it coming. I digress, but what we all know what I'm getting at. You like when Lois Lane's on the train track and the train's coming. You know, Superman's coming to scoop her up or to stop the train with his hand. Like she's not gonna get smashed by the train. We all know it.
Well,
You know,
what we're doing is we're going back to these tropes. I think it goes all the way back to the very first melodrama. It's called The Perils of Pauline. Oh no! Snidely Whiplash has really kidnapped me, and he's got me tied up. He put me on the railroad tracks. And then along comes Jones. Save her, right? So,
right?
Or the other thing is, one of the reasons that big blockbuster movies like Star Wars work out so well is because they follow the hero's journey, which goes all the way back to the saga of Gilgamesh. That old, folks. And you start messing with that, and it doesn't work anymore. And that's what's been happening, I think, for the past couple of decades. Is they're saying, okay, we can't do that. That's too old. It's thousands of years old, and it's worked for thousands of years, and now suddenly it's not going to work anymore.
There's another problem with it too, is you get a lot of these people and they're trying to put their own political ideology and just shove it into the stories. And sometimes the stories benefit from that. We've seen that with the X-Men, or I think Green Arrow and Green Lantern did that well in the 70s. And sometimes you can do that and do it in a way where it's fun and exciting. And other times you can do that in a way where it feels contrived and forced, and it doesn't tell a natural story or a good story. It's just in there for the sake of it being in there, and it serves no purpose. And that's the worst kind of way to do it. Yeah, it's the worst kind of way to do it. And Unfortunately, that I think is more important nowadays than taking care of these, being good custodians of these intellectual properties and telling a good story and making sure that these characters are still unharmed for the next person that picks them up and plays with them.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of these characters have been harmed as far as keeping the product going and keeping it going out there. That's why I said Star Wars needs to rest for about a decade. It needs to get out of the public consciousness long enough for them to pick it back up again. And you can ignore everything that was bad and you can start all over again with it, I suppose. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen.
And I do get what you're saying, the "how can I miss you if you don't go away" kind of thing. Because there was some excitement when the Phantom Menace was announced. We were like, "Hey, I ain't seen this in a while," you know. I mean, yeah, we got a couple bad Ewok movies or whatever, you know, but hey,
We can
this is gonna be the
safely
real
ignore
deal.
those.
You know, this is gonna be the real deal. We're gonna have some good Star Wars, and and the Phantom Menace was received how it was received. There were some fans that really liked it, and there were some other fans that thought, this was probably better left undone. And what's funny now though is where you thought your bad Star Wars was with the prequels, you have no idea because the sequels were so much worse. It made the prequels age well. They look great in comparison. Watch The Force Awakens, and you'll think The Phantom Menace was a masterpiece.
I've seen that personally because I remember how bad we thought the Phantom Menace was until we saw what bad really was. And people
Hey,
have
the
taken another
Last
look at the
Jedi,
Phantom Menace and they're saying, hey, this isn't so bad after all.
right? At least it had a story that had a plot and a purpose, and it went somewhere. The Last Jedi or whatever,
Well,
whatever.
the sequel movies, as they call them, they didn't have an overall story they were telling, or they did, and they just threw it out the window and started all over again.
Right.
They were
And you
playing
can
Mad
tell
Libs
that.
with that. You
You
can't
can
make a
tell
movie.
that too.
You can't play Mad Libs and make a decent movie. Okay, we're gonna do this, and then here you take the book and you put yours in there, and then you take the book and you put yours in there. It don't work that way, folks.
Well, and like almost the same thing happened with the DC movies. You keep switching director and creative direction, and we're gonna do this. No, wait, now we're doing that. No, wait, we're gonna do this now. No, wait, we're gonna add this person. No, wait, we're gonna. You change it too many times, you just kind of lost the original direction of whatever it was going to originally be. And movies usually don't fare well with that.
No. Well, one of the things that I've always said was that Warner doesn't want to spend the time to develop their world. They want to have their cake and eat it too right now. So instead of going and producing a movie about this character and introducing them and maybe have a teaser at the end, and this character and introduce them to us and have a teaser at the end and build a nice rock solid foundation to build your universe into so that it doesn't topple. Instead, they want to introduce everything right now in one movie.
I want to respond to No Way Farms here about the destroying the childhood heroes. Your childhood heroes are completely intact and they're exactly where you left them and they're exactly how they were. You can go right back to those movies and those shows and rewatch them and relove them just like you did then. Now, unfortunately, what they've done with them since, you can either enjoy for what it is or you could safely ignore. That is basically the path I have taken where if I enjoy something, I'm going to watch more of it and spend more time with it. And if I feel like, this Superman isn't my Superman, I'm going to go right back over here where I liked him before. And that's kind of how I play this game. There's a lot of different versions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Some of them I really liked, and some of them I really didn't. I always go back to the ones I like, and I don't watch the ones I didn't anymore.
Here's how you do it, folks. And it's happening right now with the Acolyte, I think. And also it's happening with Doctor Who. Okay, and Goji and I'll get into all that tomorrow as well. I want you guys to be here for it. People are getting their message out with their pocketbook. They're saying, I'm not watching that crap anymore. And the ratings are showing it. And if they can't make money off of that and it continues to lose money, they'll quit doing it. Joe K just subscribed. Thank you, Joe K, for subscribing to us. Welcome to the family here at Weird Fantastic Toy Adventure.
We're on the road to 1,000, and he is just one more closer to achieving his goal. So we appreciate you.
We haven't seen the fireworks on a show in quite some time. So we had a subscriber during the show. It's a great thing, but yes, stop watching that crap. Don't go over there and watch it. Don't watch it at all. If you feel you must watch it another way. Watch it in a way in which they don't make any money. Go to your friend's house and watch it on their TV instead of your own, or something like that.
Well, and here's the other thing, Bill, and I think some people lose this, and I think a lot of the social media groups should listen very closely to what I have to say here. If you don't enjoy it, there are fans who are enjoying these new versions, and you don't need to go on to their pages and hate on this and make argument on the internet and yell at everybody. Oh, how dare you enjoy the new He-Man? The new He-Man was terrible. We got old He-Man and we liked it too, and uphill both ways and such. And you don't need to do that. You can just like, hey, that wasn't for me, so I'm not watching that one. I'm glad you liked it.
And that's the case. And if there's someone watching here tonight that does like these things, you go watch them. But give me the opportunity to not watch it.
Right. And if I'm asked and I didn't like it, it's okay for my answer to be I didn't like it. You don't have to say I'm some kind of ist or ism or I hate people because I didn't like something. Just because I didn't like, Tila doesn't mean I'm horrible. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that wasn't for me, and that's the problem. I think people get so in their camps, and then they gotta fight each other.
Yeah, the problem is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone has made up their mind that they don't like something, what makes you think that you're going to go over there and suddenly make their mind change so that they suddenly do like it just as much as you do, or whatever?
You're not. And quite honestly, I've watched it back when I didn't enjoy for the He-Man one. I watched Revelation and Revolution back, and I enjoyed it much more on the second watch. I didn't like Wonder Woman 1984 on my first watch. I watched it back. It was much better on the second watch. Sometimes that'll happen.
Well, that happened to me and my wife here recently. She hadn't watched Wonder Woman 84 in so long that she forgot what the storyline was even about. She didn't even remember watching it. I remember hate watching it when it came out and didn't like it at all. And we just wanted to have just a nice, mindless, entertaining show to watch one afternoon together. And it was on the Hulu or whatever, that Tubi or whatever it is, and I could watch it for free and endure the ads like a normal television show. So we popped it on and watched it. And on the second watch, seeing a couple of things and knowing what I already knew, yeah, it was a much more enjoyable movie. I do agree with that.
So sometimes that can happen, but like I was a big fan of The Witcher, the video games and the books. And when Netflix took that on, I was like, oh God, and they got the perfect casting for Geralt with Henry Cavill. And I'm like, this is going to be great. And the first episode or maybe first season kind of was. And then the second season, and then I can't watch it back because I just pick up the book and read the book because there he is. there's the Witcher I want. He's right here in this book. Unfortunately, he didn't show up on the Netflix show the way I wanted him to. So I feel like that's a lost opportunity. And unfortunately, the folks at Netflix couldn't get out of their own way and tell a good Witcher story. They tried to tell their story instead of why use the stuff in the book? That's a bunch of nonsense. Let's make up our own. Come on.
Right.
You
And I think that's one of the reasons why Cavill kind of said to hell with it, if I'm not mistaken.
He told them that from the get-go. If we're going to do an honest adaptation, I'm in. And if we're going to stray from it, I'm out. And man of his word. Unfortunately, I only see lost opportunity there, because that could have been great. That could have been one of the greatest. That could have made Netflix, but unfortunately, I just look at it as lost.
We try to get a handle on what's going on over here in the chat. Susudio says they did the same thing with Speed Racer cartoons. The original Speed Racer was good, but then they started doing a computer style cartoon, not the same. And then there was a movie too. I don't know. I never saw the movie.
The movie was horrible.
Yeah. And then they're Rick and Mike are doing the same comedy shtick about Rio Blast and Hordak. I'll skip that. You guys have fun with that. Mike P says, I like Space Ghost and Falcon, but the talk show was like, it's okay. I kind of like Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I thought that was funny.
It had its moments. That was some fun. It was a fun watch.
No Way Farm says season 1 of The Boys is great, but the others, nah. I don't even know what The Boys is. I haven't even watched it. I know it's based on a comic book series, I think.
Kind of their own version of the Watchmen. What if heroes were real, and what would they act like?
They would act like dicks and be assholes, right? I think that was the purpose of the Watchmen.
Yeah, and that was basically it. It was kind of like The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead was really good. The first few seasons of that were great. And in fact, rewatching those first couple seasons of that is like, wow, this show was really good. And it did stray from the comic and the source material, and you could do that to some extent and the show still be good. Much like Game of Thrones did. But after a while, you kind of overstay your welcome.
The
and most of these
I
shows
had with
go
Walking Dead. Okay, first of all, I didn't read the comics and still haven't. Okay, so I'm not the comic fan. I know nothing about it. My daughter, on the other hand, was a big fan of the television show, and I think she tried getting into the comics, but she didn't like the comics as well as she liked the TV show. My first introduction to Walking Dead was when they came to live with me. It was the beginning of the first of a new season. So they said, "Okay, Dad, come in here and watch this with us. You'll just love it." So I went in there and I sat down with them, and I watched a man take a barbed wire baseball bat and beat another man to death with it. And I just got up and walked out of the room. I was done. I didn't want to watch anymore. Sorry.
As is television horror, but it is a good classic, throw some popcorn in your mouth, watch the zombies do zombie stuff, and the people do horrible things to each other while the zombies are out. That's basically what it is. But kind of like with No Way Farms here saying that Games of Thrones ended poorly. I think it's the same thing with a lot of these shows. They start out good and then they go like a season or two too long, and they have nowhere left to go. They probably should have ended on one of those high notes back there, but instead they trudge on until the ratings go so bad the studio doesn't renew it.
I think I read somewhere the average is 5 seasons. The first season is not really watchable because everything is not established yet. Most Star Trek's a good example, but it only lasted 3. But you don't see the established tropes until about the 2nd or 3rd season, and that's when it starts. The ratings start to climb, and then you get that so 4th season where the ratings begin to slip, and then you get the 5th season where it tanks, and that's usually when it gets canceled. That about right, Jones?
That sounds about right to me. I like I said, like season 2, season 3 is probably about the best of it. You know, when the show's at its high, and then
and we all know that when cousin Oliver gets introduced into the thing, or when the TV show goes from black and white to color, it all goes to crap.
right.
Mike V says, I liked The Last Kingdom based on King Alfred. He was a real king, a very interesting show. Well, I know you've got to go to bed early, and it's already 11:30. So what we're going to do, folks, is I'm going to do a couple of musics and funs, and we're going to call it a night. If you guys want any requests, now's the time for them. No Way Farm says OG Star Trek was the bomb diggity, and I still watch it regularly. I do too. I like OG Star Trek too. Gilter says that's exactly what happened to Lost. Well, Lost was one of those shows where they didn't have an ending in mind when they started it out. They were just writing episodes as they went, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it ended that way too.
Yeah, it kind of went. But yeah, we're gonna do a little music and fun. I think Jonezer's probably gonna bow out, and we'll see you next week, Jonezer, hopefully. And I hope you get everything taken care of tomorrow. Get a good night's sleep for that. And we'll go ahead and get some music and fun started. If you guys want to hear anything, let me know in the chat, and I'll get something set up for. Good night to you, Jonezer, and here's some music and fun, folks.
There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was the Billy O.T. The winds blew up her bow, dip down, all below my bully boys blow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. She'd not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. The boat had hit the water, the whale's tail came up and caught her. All hands to the side, harpooned and fought her when she dived down low. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. No line was cut, no whale was freed. The captain's mind was not of greed, and he belonged to the whaleman's creed. She took that ship in tow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. For 40 days or even more, the line went slack, then tight once more. All boats were lost, there were only 4, but still that whale did go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on, the line's not cut and the whale's not gone. The wellerman makes his regular call to encourage the captain, crew and all. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
The grasslands are endless and summer chieftain makes long roads between them. The grasslands are endless and summer sings on. The grasslands are waving, the sky's rim is gray. The chieftain sends river wind east and away to search for strong magic at the lip of the morning. The grasslands are waving, the sky's rim is gray. Oh, river wind, where have you gone? Oh, river wind, autumn comes on. I sit by the river and look to the sunrise, but the sunrise is over the mountains alone. The grasslands are fading, the summer wind dies. He comes back, the darkness of stone in his eyes. He carries a blue staff as bright as a glacier. The grasslands are fading, the summer wind dies. The grasslands are fragile, as yellow as flame. The chieftain makes mockery of river wind's claim. He orders the people to stone the young warrior. The grasslands are fragile, as yellow as flame. Oh, river wind, where have you gone? Oh, river wind, autumn comes on. I sit by the river and look to the sunrise, but the sunrise is over the mountains alone. The grassland has faded and autumn is here. The girl joins her lover, the stones whistle near. The staff flares in blue light and both of them vanish. The grasslands are faded and autumn is here. Oh, river wind, where have you gone? Oh, river wind, autumn comes on. I sit by the river and look to the sunrise, but the sunrise is over the mountains alone.
terrific safety report from my vantage point. I really need to leave. Civil Defense has informed me that the surrounding areas are in ruin. I see some people running now. In the opinion of this reporter, if this nation, or in fact the world, ever needed heroes, that time is now. That time is now.
Well, folks, I'm going to call it a night. Should be playing, so we're going to say goodnight to everybody. I want to apologize. We did not get to the feature presentation tonight. We were going to go over long, and we couldn't do that with Jonezer having to go out early. Sorry I couldn't keep chatting, kept losing power. It's okay, George. Don't worry about it, man. We will do the feature presentation that we were going to do tonight on another night, I promise. But tonight, it's time to say goodnight. It's time to say good journey. It's time to say stay fantastic and keep on collecting. And we will see you guys next time here on Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures. And thank you all for sticking with it and staying with us tonight. We had a great discussion with Jonezer's Comment Corner. If you guys have suggestions for future shows, please do check out the chat below after the show is over with and give us some ideas in that. And Bill, can you play White Hot Raid? I can, just for you. And I'll set that up right now, and that will be, when that's over with, we'll call it a night, and that will be the end of the shows. I'll play the credits after that's over with. So I'll do that just for you, Studio. I'll go down here and get you set up with that. Let me get over here and get one set up with you. Now, okay, that on just for Studio. Get some White Hot Rage, very last of the show. So good journey, everybody, and enjoy White Hot Rage. The credits are going to roll after that, and we'll see you all next time on Weird Fantastic.
Ouch! Special thanks to the channel supporters. Without your help, these adventures would not be possible. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's adventure, please hit like, subscribe, and share the video.